No, man, I am so excited that it's the weekend. I've really been putting in a lot of work lately, and I haven't been as attentive to my family as I'd like to be. I'm turning my phone off tomorrow. It's just a day of relaxing. Probably go to the zoo, do something fun, maybe the beach, and I'm looking forward to it. I've been putting in work because I've switched over to Patreon. I'm still going to do the YouTube stuff, but there's a lot of extra content on there. You get the YouTube videos early. I think there's a lot of benefits to it, and people that have already switched over seem to really like it. Patreon.com/Ryan Leone. It will be in the link. The link will be in the pinned comment, and it will also be in the description. That's it. That is my little plug. If you want to help me out, it's certainly appreciated. Please like, subscribe, comment, all of that. I know this stuff gets repetitive, but if you don't mention it, then people don't do it. So I have to do it. I have a family to support. Uh, Funny little, quick little side story before we get into it. We went out for dinner a couple nights ago, and it was like a Benihana style place where they cook in front of you Japanese style food, and they put you with like a random families and stuff, and it was just us, and there was like a young couple, and then there was this family, and it was like a father, mother, and like their son, and the young couple kind of talked to us, but we had nothing in common. They're like, "Hey, are you guys going to Coachella this year?" And we're like, "We can't even go see movies. We have a 2-year-old, and we don't trust people to babysit him because there's so many sketchy, weird. I mean, I don't know what. I don't even trust my friends, family, nobody. Nobody's gonna babysit my kid. Not until he's old enough to tell me how the babysitting was. I think that's important, and I don't think enough people do that. And I just don't want him exposed to the predators that are out there. So, point is we really don't have that much time to go do stuff like that. Go see concerts, even go to movies. Um, this other family's kind of ignoring us, because I think they're conservative, and I got the tattoos, and who knows what Karina and I are talking about, but she's a beautiful woman, and she dresses a little provocatively, and I like that about her. But anyway, they eventually the conversation was like, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" I'm like, "I'm a writer," and like no interest before that, and then the woman's like, "Really?" I was like, "Yeah, I am." Like, a published writer? I'm like, "Yeah." "What do you write about?" I'm like, "Well, heroin addiction and my life as a drug addict. I have one novel out, but I'm coming out with a new one." She's like, "Oh my god, oh my god, such a coincidence. I'm an English teacher," which is really like the equivalent of somebody saying, "What's your birthday?" "August 3rd." "No way. Mine's August 17th." Yeah, that's 14 days apart from mine. It's not that fucking crazy. She's like, "I am an English teacher myself, and I've always wanted to write. I've had a very fascinating life." I'm like, "Really?" She's like, "Yeah, like a 90210 kind of life, if you know what I mean." I have no idea what that means. What does that mean? And then her husband's like, "Sarah, you've said too much." Like she was gonna tell me about her, whatever the fuck that. I don't even know what that means. I don't even know why I'm telling this story. It's just like some really weird people out there. I mean, what does that mean? "I had a 90210 life." "Sarah, you've said too much." It's like, don't let the junkie writer, steal your idea about your 90210 lifestyle. I don't even know what the fuck that means. What, you were rich growing up? Cool. Definitely bestseller material. You should put that out there. Sorry, that's for all the people that complain about how long my intros are and how random some of the stuff I say is and how it's all a sales pitch. So, yeah, fuck you people. And that was for you. A little meaningless story. Let's get into the actual story. So, last time that I, where we left off, I had successfully gotten the balloons full of tobacco from the hospital. I've shit it out, tasted my own shit, and I've somehow smuggled it back into MDCLA. thinking that I'm about to get well on heroin because that place used to be flooded in 2009. I mean, it was cracking with drugs. They had a lot there. I had like 3 push and pull syringes. Um, this guy that was missing his chin was prescribed OxyContin, and we'd share coffee, and flakes of his scab, would be in the coffee, and I'd still drink it. I'd be like, yeah, I'm a solid white guy. Fuck it, whatever. He was called the what was it? The Buddy Holly Bandit in Orange County. And the FBI shot him in the face. His name was Snap. Interesting guy. I think I still owe him $80. If you're watching, Snap, hit me up. I got PayPal, dude. Anyway, there were no drugs there. And the group of people that were there first week of January 2017 were like the most unsolid first-time convicts I've ever done time with. It was like a county jail type atmosphere. And I mean, this is the county jail equivalent for the feds. But usually, if you've been federally indicted, the way that they're doing it now, with all the RICOs and conspiracies, you're generally getting people that have been in the game for a while. Not this group of people. This was ridiculous. And I was mad about a lot of stuff. I was mad no one would give me a phone call, the first night. I was mad that I was celled up with some fucking buggy paisa that, would watch me shit. I'm mad that this kid from Orange County, it's so chilly, went around and told everyone that I had contraband. I mean, that's a no-no. Prison is the one place where people do keep secrets. Because everybody's butt fucking after the lights go off. No, I mean, it's very cliche to say, but you often hear people that have done a lot of time, years, say all you have is your word and your balls. And the word is synonymous with reputation, and it's very important to have a good name in the prison world, because you can get a bad one very, very quickly. If you check in, roll it up anywhere, you're fucked. You're no good. If you're snitch, you're chomo, no good. And all of these things, I mean, they're valid reasons to be no good. Being no good translates to you're a piece of shit. And so generally, when people give their word, listen, I got it on Tuesday. Now, I was never good like that. My word was poo-poo. I was a dope fiend. I am not a good convict. I've never, ever, ever presented myself as such on here. I'm not. I mean, I've done solid things for sure. And if you talk to guys I've done time with, generally they're going to say good things about me, that I was solid while I was in there, whatever. But, fuck, what was I just saying? When you tell a secret to somebody, it usually stays with that person because that's such an act of betrayal. It's almost like snitching, or once you breach that trust, you get labeled as a guy that can't keep a secret, and that translates to you can't keep your word. And God, I need to get surgery on my nose. It might be because I'm still going through post-acute withdrawal from Suboxone, which makes my nose runny anyway. But I also have deviated septum from, I don't know why. I've always made super healthy decisions with my body, but constantly leaking, which is gross. I'm like, I'll go kiss my chick, and she's like, ew, I can taste your snot. I didn't like that this kid, that whole rant was because I didn't like that this kid had gone around telling people this. Put me in a bad position. I mean, all jokes aside, you bring something into prison, you're looking at time. Straight up. And of course, I'm making up the whole thing. I never brought tobacco into any prison because that, of course, is illegal, and I don't do stuff like that. And that's why I have disclaimers that says everything I say that's illegal is not true, because it's not. But let's just say if I had, I would be very mad that he did this. And I was happy that at least that first night, one of those balloons got me $1,000. I had all the store in the world that I wanted, and I'd already had somebody that was going to meet up with my wife and give her $400. But I just didn't like the whole situation of being at this place. And I had found this guy, I forget what his name was. It's like Crazy Ray or something. Loco Ray. I think it was Ray Loco. That was his name. And, he was a Southsider, and he'd agreed to let me make a phone call as long as I give him some tobacco. So I did, and the way that it works in there is, like I had explained in the last video, it's a pretty big infraction if you get caught using somebody else's pack number. Reason being is that it is a security issue with the prison. Now, there's a lot of low-level offenders in the federal system now, which I'll get into later on in the video, but there's also some pretty influential people, like Big Meech, who I'm about to meet on this term, or on this violation, is influential. He's an influential person. You got leaders of different gangs, you have terrorists, whatever. It's important from a security standpoint, or this is what they say, and I mean, I'd have to agree with this, that they know who's on the phone at what time, because they monitor these calls, and they got to know if, somebody like Al Chapo is, being like, telling people to smuggle him out of the prison through the shower. They need to monitor this stuff because they have big people in there. So the way that it works is they have like a row of phones that will be attached to the wall, and they have a camera that monitors the calls. Now, there's a control station somewhere out in the prison. I mean, I've never seen it, but I'd imagine that there's this like control center. And I know that they have monitors that they can like actually watch the video cameras, and stuff gets flagged. And like if somebody they're watching pops up, it'll notify them, and the camera is like, set to us using the phone. And if you're not the person whose pack number you're using, that's how they get you. And usually like the CO will walk up to you and be like, hey, you're not Ronaldo or whatever. And then you get busted, and you get a 200 series shot. Everything in the feds is a shot, disciplinary. 100 series is like very serious stuff. Riots, sex riots, homicide, rape, possession of a weapon like a shank. That's 100 series. You always go to the hole for that. 200 series is a little less serious. It's like misuse of the phone, fighting, stuff like that. 300 series is really petty stuff like tattoo motor, tattoo paraphernalia, disrespect to the staff. And then like a 400 series is like stuff they never do, like fresh tattoos or possession of pornography, something, well, as long as it's like adults, that's like a 400 series shot. But 200 series is what the phone thing is, so it's a big deal. And the way that we would do it is when people wait to use the phone, a lot of times they'll sit by the phone with their back against the wall. And so I sat with my back against the wall, making it look like I'm in line to use the phone. Ray Loco, he puts in my ex-wife's phone number to the computer system, because that's how you add numbers to your phone system. You get on the computer, same one you'd write the email or do the MP3s on, and you add, a number to your contact list. Within like 5 minutes, I think it's actually 30 minutes. 30 minutes from that point, you can actually call that number. Now, it wasn't always like that. In 2009, when I first went to federal prison, you used to have to do it the old-fashioned way and like write the number down on like an SAT style bubble answer sheet that they would feed into some machine and then add the number that way. And it was really annoying because like sometimes you had to add a number and you'd have to wait on the case manager to do it for you manually, and it could take a week, and it was just a big hassle. So now they did it on the computer. This guy, Ray Loco, added my ex-wife's number to it, wrote it down on a piece of paper, takes that same piece of paper. I have my back against the wall, and he calls, make sure that she picks up. And, on her end, it's like, you have a prepaid call from Ray Loco, an inmate at a federal prison. To accept the charges, press 5. And, she presses 5. Thank you for using. And as soon as he knows that she picks up, he just drops the phone. Now, it's on a cord, kind of swings down, A lot of people do that anyway when they're done with the phone, just so the person in line, because, you call, you look at somebody that's like on the phone and you go like this, who's after you? And like they'll point to somebody else, and then you jump in line with them or whatever. So to make it like slick so that you don't get caught, calls, make sure she picks up, drops the phone. I'm sitting on the floor. I get up like I'm going to use it, and I just pick up that phone. Hopefully I don't get caught. So she picks up, and she's like, this is the first thing she says to me, "Where's my money?" Now, he had told me before I got on the phone, he's like, "Listen, man." No, he didn't talk like that. Hey, fool, hey, don't be saying no crazy shit on that phone, fool. They're watching me, dog. Serio, fool. All right. I won't say anything. He's like, don't say anything about like your tobacco you brought in. Don't say anything crazy, fool. They'll fucking get you, dog. Palabra. All right. Get on the phone, and the first thing, "Where's my money?" I'm like, how you doing? Are you okay coming off all the heroin and fentanyl and alcohol that you're kicking? What about that? "Where's my money?" Don't you have a job? "Fuck that, Ryan. You promised me that you would take care of me with the shit that you brought in there." I'm like, click. And he's like, "What's that? What's up, fool?" I'm like, yeah, I don't know, she's mad. She thinks I'm cheating on her. He's like, "In prison?" And I'm like, no, don't, whoa, no. And now he's just like kind of looking at me. I'm like, oh, great. Someone with the name Ray Loco thinks that I'm a homosexual. Fuck yeah. Thanks, ex-wife. So that was the call that we had. I mean, "I thought you were going to smuggle shit in and fucking yeah." I'm like, oh my God. Like, it's the worst thing she could say. She just said it direct. And I had told her a number of times before I got there, I said, "Listen, these are the codes that I'm going to tell you over the phone. If I tell you, hey, babe, write down this information, if it's a phone number, whatever, that means call that person so you can link up with them to get the money." I'd already worked out a deal the night before where, I'd sold $400 worth of tobacco. A very, very small amount. I mean, it was like less than half of what I had in one balloon. Rest of the stuff I got was in commissary. And, when I worked out the $400 thing, they were like, "Yeah, just, here's my chick's number, give it to your chick, have your chick meet up with my chick, and she'll bring her money," whatever. It's very common, because then there's no paper trail. There's no way that they can prove that any sort of transaction occurred, and you can do it very slick, like basically that guy emails this chick, he's like, "Hey, I need you, some girl's going to call you, give her $400, and there's a lot of people that have other people out there that will do anything they say like that. No questions asked. And, apparently this person was like that. So, I didn't tell Ray Loco that she had said all this crazy stuff, even though he had specifically told me not to do that. And that's me not being solid, because I should have told him right off the get-go, like, "Hey, man, like, my chick's crazy, and she said crazy stuff over the phone, just a heads up, just so he knows." That's like the proper thing that I should have done. But, at this point, I'm so upset with the atmosphere and the political climate at this place, how just totally, disorganized everything was. It was completely lawless. And I didn't know what I could or couldn't do. So I was like, well, if everyone else is going to be a piece of shit, I may as well be one too. I don't have to follow the rules if nobody else is. So, that day, I'm kicking, and I'm in the bottom bunk, and I find out that my buggy Celly sleeps during the day. Vampire hours. I've seen a lot of people do time like that. And actually, somebody had taught me, Boots had taught me, to stay up all night, sleep all day, do that for like a couple months, and then just completely switch your cycle. Sleep in normal throughout the night, and then, be up throughout the day. And if you keep switching your cycle like that, time goes by incredibly fast. There's a lot of little tricks that you can do that are like that, but that's one of the more effective ways. And I mean, you can't do that in prison, because like you have to be up, suited and booted right when the doors crack in case anything pops off, and that's just part of like being, solid peckerwood. But in county jail or in a detention center, it's not as strict, still strict to some degree, and stuff, you don't want stuff to follow you, but basically, if you can sleep all day, why not? It's not like prison where people are doing life sentences and everything. You're actually in a place where people are still fighting their cases, etc. So a lot of people are coming up to me and asking me, if I'll sell them tobacco. And you got to understand one thing about people in prison. Everybody is a con artist. Everybody is a salesman. And there's not one person in prison that doesn't have an angle. You're dealing with only criminals. So, of course, everyone's going to try to run game on you. That's how criminals are. And, people would come up and, say really, way out stuff that just, you knew that was bullshit, Hey, fool, let me get it to you. Hey, check it out, dog. I don't have money right now, but my Aina is going to send me $30 when she gets her tax return, fool. And I'll give you all of that 30 because I want some tobacco. I want a frajo. They call it a frajo. I'm like, dude, it's the first week of January. It's not even tax return time. He's like, yeah, dog, but I got you. I'm like, I'm only doing 90 days, man. I hope I'm not here by then. I'm assuming that I'm going to be at MDCLA the entire time. Everybody's coming up to me running game, and I'm basically, just because you don't have drugs on that floor doesn't mean there's not drugs on other floors. And, as I talked about in my first 5 years in federal prison, you could talk through the toilets or you could talk through the vents. And there's a unit on this side and there's a unit on this side. And in the recreation cage outdoors, it has a basketball hoop, and that's where people do burpees, whatever. It's where people work out. You can get on the door and you can be say you're on 7 South and you want to talk to 7 North. You just knock on the door and you're like, hey, 7 North. And someone will come by and, hey, what's up? Hey. And you can start saying whatever you want through the door. And usually you're talking in code, And I had told, I gravitated towards the Southsiders. And they seem to be, have the most solid people, as a group. In that particular place at that time. Kind of similar to 2009. But I talked to some guy, his name was Sporty. He seemed to be the real hustler of the group. Very clean cut, polished, wearing all the flashy stuff you could wear in this place, the sweatpants. He's got the nice watch on, you can have some religious chain, and he had all this. He was flossed out. So I knew that he was actually on some shit. He'd been there 3 years fighting his case, and he was the repa. He was the shot caller for the Southsiders on that floor. And I went up to him and I was like, hey man, I don't have drugs, but I got some tobacco. I know it's pretty dry around here. I'm kicking heroin right now. And do you think you could find something, Suboxone, heroin, anything that can get me well, possibly on another floor, and, I'll look out for you. I already blessed him right when I started talking to him. We went to his cell. It's visiting the Godfather, but he's sitting on his bunk and I'm sitting on the toilet. I mean, that's just how jail is, when you're, and he's like, yeah, he's like, they have Suboxone on other floors. It's like, I can get that for you. And I was like, all right, cool. Here. Gave him another $100 worth of tobacco. I'm like, just make it happen and just give me what you think's right. He's like, oh, I got you. All right, cool. And so I'm leaving the cell. I'm like, hey, I got something for the big homie too. The big homie, as we've talked about, is for them it's MA, it's Black Hand, and I don't want to go too much into that. But he had somebody above him. I don't even want to say who or what, but the MA it's a well-known fact that they're the ones that they call it for the Southsiders. Those are their big homies. For Peckerwoods, it's the Aryan Brotherhood. There wasn't even any AB dude. They're also called the Brand. There wasn't even any Aryan Brotherhoods in this institution. That's the first thing I asked. Well, secondly, what's up with your big homie? Yeah. He's slammed down in the box right now. He's in the hole. He's doing all day. Doing all day means you're doing life sentence. He's from this area, and yeah, I was like, well, let me give you a portion of what I have, you know, just like out of respect for them, also to give myself some sort of, you know, protection, insurance, you know, just it's appreciating, acknowledging their power and their position. You know, I give them a decent chunk of the tobacco, and then later, if I have to call in a favor, they're very principled people. You know, they're okay. You know, hey, so and so's not paying me from the Southsiders. Can you take care of that? Taken care of. And they're just the way they do stuff is proper. So I bless him. I'm sure that they got it to him by fishing it through the toilets. You know, making a fishing line, putting it in like a plastic coffee bag so it doesn't get wet, like getting it all airtight, tying it up, and then you get all the water out of your toilet on our floor, and then he's up in the hole, takes all the water out of the toilet in his cell, and then he throws his line down, and we flush ours, and it, you know, it links up, and then he can pull it up and get whatever I'm blessing him, whether it be tobacco or drugs, whatever. Now, Sporty said he was going to get me Suboxone. You know, I didn't ask when. I wasn't, you know, I didn't want to, like, sound like a complete dope fiend, even though I was. And I just went back to my cell, and I just laid in the bunk. Probably beat off a little bit, too, and, you know, whatever. Sporty comes back to me a couple hours later. You know, my buggy celly's sleeping. And, you know, this guy's Sporty carries himself correctly. You know, he comes to the window. He's doing sign language with me. We haven't done that, but I can do it I mean, any convict can do that fluently. You know, he's like telling me to come out, and you know, you go like that, and then you can do different. I have ADD, so I can't do it like as fast as some people, and usually I have to tell them to slow down. And you see that sign, it's like slang sign. In different places, different letters have different. People do letters differently. I'll do an entire video on sign language, the alphabet in state prison and in federal prison. But he's talking to me in sign, whatever, and he's telling me that the Suboxone's going to be there that night. I'm like, cool. I fucking get out of bed to talk to him, go outside. I was like, really? He's like, yeah, they're going to shoot it up here. I'm like, how much is it? And he's like, should be enough to get you right. I'm like, thank you, appreciate that. He's like, yeah. He's like, what's up with Bug, man? Yeah, I swear he said Bug. Not a, you know, just my celly that was like that. I'm like, I don't know, man. They sell me up with him, and I didn't even know I was allowed to sell up with the Paisa. He's like, I got to get you out of there. He's like, I got juice with the case manager. Don't even trip. Case manager will be back, and when case manager's back, I'll get you in a cell with somebody else. We'll try to find you like, you know, a decent white celly so that you can be with your own people. I'm like, decent white celly? I was like, have you seen the selection? He's like, yeah, man, but, you know, I'll find you someone that's not a child molester. I was like, I'm glad you said that. All right. So we're on the same wavelength. And he found this guy named Mike Miles. I'm still friends with to this day. He's one of my Facebook friends. And he's a guy that was from Texas and very bad alcoholic. He looked kind of like, if you ever seen Home Alone, he looked like the guy with the shovel. You know, he had like this very depressed beard, and he just laid in bed all day and read like detective novels. No. Fantasy novels. Big, like, 1,000-page epic, like, I'm just going to get lost in, you know, Dungeons and Dragons world because I just can't cope with reality kind of person. Very depressed. And Sporty tried to, like, arrange it where I'd meet him and we could see if there was compatibility. It was like speed dating, you know? I mean, it's very, like, weird, like, when, like, someone brings you to someone and they're like, hey, this person wants to live with you. And, like, they'll start saying, like, all their assets, and they're definitely, like, hey, fool, like, I fart, I snore, you know, I ain't a weirdo, I don't go to store, but, like, I draw. And I'm like, I have tobacco, I masturbate frequently, I'm probably going to be telling you all about my relationship all the time, which is annoying as fuck, I understand that, and I have store. I mean, that's pretty much like in a nutshell how that works. You know, and there's not too many deal breakers with me. Oh, hey, I'm also a Viking. You know, I live like a fucking biker. I am the messiest celly ever. And, you know, what's interesting about that is like that is definitely looked down on in prison. If you're a messy person, it's considered like a very bad trait. I guess same as out here. And, you know, if you ask like my wife how annoying it is to pick up after me all the time, you know, she's like, it really irritates her, and it irritates people in prison as well, especially if you're in an 8 by 10 like cell. How hard is that to keep that small area clean? But for me, it's really hard for some reason. I think it's just the ADD. Like I'll start like putting stuff away, and then like someone will come in and talk to me, and I'll just be like, oh, I'll just leave all my shit out, and you know, it tends to piss cellies off. But what I've noticed is like initially it'll piss them off, but once they get to know me, if they like me, they tend to overlook it, you know, whatever. It's just a flaw. And, you know, I talked to Mike, and he's a very quiet guy. I didn't really know how to read him, but what I did know is that Sporty was like, look, this dude has clean paperwork, and he showed me, and he was in there for bank robbery. So he was just living with like some, I don't know, some redneck dude, you know, some super like hardcore Confederate flag kind of guy. And they had a falling out because Mike snored. And, you know, Sporty's like, hey, like, can you live with him if he snores? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I'm kicking. I'm not sleeping, you know, if you don't care about me being messy. So we because he was by himself. And he's like, do you care if I have the bottom bunk? I'm like, yeah, dude. I mean, this guy was like in his 40s or 50s. And I'm like, yeah, of course, you know. I'll always give it to the older guy, except for Bug Guy. I'm going to take his stuff. So, so that was the plan, that I was going to move in with Mike. And, of course, everyone's trying to get tobacco out of me. Very few people have money. And I'm like, I'm not really trying to do credit because I don't want to have to deal with it, especially how dope sick I am. That means I have to be organized and I have to write a list and, like, I have to go collect money, which, why should I be on that position? Some people have a different philosophy about that in prison. It's like, they'd rather have debts owed to them and have like a bunch of, you know, equity on paper, so to speak. I don't even want to deal with it. Just from years of experience of doing time, why put yourself in a situation where it can get physical? And you're always opening yourself up to that, even if someone owes you the money, because then it gets to be an ego thing. You look like a bitch if you're not collecting it. And then, you know, you're trying to get back to your family, and it's problematic for sure. So I have to spend, I don't know, another day or two with Bug Guy, and case manager comes, you know, the next morning, and Sporty's like, look, check it out. I'll talk to the case manager, and I'll get you the cell assignment changed, because, you know, you can't just like pick where you want to live, but you can go to the case manager if it's not working out with your cellie, as long as you're not like, you know, ratting them out like, hey, excuse me, case manager, yeah, my cellie's shooting heroin and it's really affecting my recovery. Can't live there anymore. You can't say shit like that, you know, but you can definitely be like, yeah, we're just not compatible and I want to go here. And usually it's just a simple signature, boom, you can move cells. And then there's always favoritism, you know, people like tend to have juice with case managers, and this guy Sporty been there for a few years, and when you're there for a few years, if you're not like an annoying person, you tend to get juice with the staff, you know, they're doing the time with you in a sense. So, you know, Sporty comes and he's like, hey man, good news, I talked to case manager, and you have to go in there and talk to her. It was a black chick. See, I've been there multiple times, so I'm like trying to remember this specific time, but I want to say it was a black chick. That time it was a woman, and so I had to go up there and talk to her. You know, it's like, hey, you need to talk to her before she does the cell assignment change, but she's gonna do it for you. I was like, all right, cool. And so I like went up to some white guy and I was like, hey, will you shadow me? I gotta go talk to the case manager. The white guy looks at me like, what does that mean? And I'm like, what does that mean? How do you not know what the fuck that means? It's like saying you don't know what a shank is or something. Shadowing means that you take another inmate with you when you go talk to police. If you're going to have any, like, more than 10-second interaction, and even that, I mean, I always, like, that's just how I was taught to do time. You know, when you send mail out, you can either leave it, like, out your door. You get, like, the envelope and you just push it, out the door so it's kind of, like, sticking out of the cell. And when they come and do their rounds, like, after lights out, they'll just grab the mail and some cops will mail it for you. But a lot of times you have to drop the mail into like a big wooden box that's in the middle of the day room. I was taught if you have a letter, because, in jail or in prison, when you do outgoing mail, you have to leave it unsealed because in theory, they're supposed to go through all the mail and make sure that you're not saying, hey, can you call Uncle Paco and have him show up here with a fucking bazooka and bust me out of here. I mean, people say crazy shit on letters and they intercept stuff all the time. That's why there's so much like coded language and stuff. People get pretty clever with the coded language, but so when you drop off an envelope, you want to put it in this wooden box that's in the day room or do it on your cell. What I was taught is always to hand that envelope to somebody, from your own race. Like, hey dude, read this before I put it in there, because a lot of people drop kites. There's a lot of snitches in jail, and they want like an extra blanket or ridiculous shit. Or sometimes if you're like a bad enough stitch, they're giving you like stamps or tobacco or confiscated drugs. It gets really grimy in there. I've read a lot of case files where like they were giving high-level gang members drugs or whatever because they wanted them to testify on a murder. So there's a lot of weird stuff going on in prison. And I was taught if you drop a envelope in the mailbox, you give it to someone in your own race, they read it. Also, if you're going to talk to the police for any reason, especially if it's like a long-winded conversation in a fucking case manager's office, you want to bring a shadow. You want to bring somebody along so that the whole theory behind it is that somehow it will, prevent snitching from going on. But it's like, well, what if you like team up with another snitch and then you guys just go debrief together? What about that? You didn't think of that, did you? Ridiculous rules. But these prison politics are ingrained in my mind. And I did 5 years. It's not stuff. These are habits that were formed that don't just go away. It's just how I was schooled. Go up to the white guy, hey, will you shadow me? He's like, oh, I don't know what that means. I'm like, so I have to go up to a Southsider. Hey, will you go shadow me? Hey, fool, yeah, we don't do that around here, fool. It's cool. I'm like, that, okay. Fuck. Jesus. So I go up to the case manager's office, and there's like someone in there having like a super animated conversation. Doors closed, but it's like a big glass window. So, like, you can see him in there, and it's like, this black guy with dreadlocks, and he's just, like, sitting there, like, making all this body language. It looks like they're fucking playing charades or something. You're like, what the fuck? This is just way out. This wouldn't have happened 4 years ago. And there's, like, this big line of people. Not one person has a shadow with them. It's like, what the hell are you saying to this representative from law enforcement with the door closed for this long? Expect people to come out with like a complimentary fruit basket from SIS with like complimentary, little shampoos and exotic fruits and kind of stuff you get like when you get comped a room in Las Vegas or something. I mean, yeah, you expect that. It's like, wow, there must be some. No wonder there's no drugs here. Jesus Christ. As much as I don't like the racist rules, I do kind of agree with some of the, preemptive steps that I've been taught that will make sure that snitching doesn't occur as much as it could. It's just so way out. So, I end up getting a Southsider to shadow me because not everybody there was on solid. I end up getting this guy, and we go in there. And this guy happened to have juice too, as somebody that like Sporty had introduced me to. So we go to the case manager's office, and we wait in line. I was already waiting in line actually, and this sporty kind of just like dropped this guy off. He's like, here, because he knew that I knew what was going on. So I'm waiting to go in there, and finally we go in there. And like I said, this guy had juice as well. He's just like sporty, he'd been there for a while. And I meet this lady, and like I said, she's very, very nice black lady, and we start talking, and she's like, why he here? I'm like, look, I did 5 years before, and this is just like kind of the rules. And she's like, wow, I don't really see people like that no more. And I'm like, yeah, well, I mean, I don't know. I have principles. She's like, yeah, okay. And sometimes like people, like cops, like respect that, And so we start talking, and she's telling me that I have, now I'm thinking like on my violation, I'm definitely going to stay there. And so I'm like, hey, I'm staying. Like, that's one of the first things before we get to the cell assignment, because I guess I had to go in there and talk to her about it. I had, I wanted to know if I was going to be housed at MDCLA. Typically, if you're already sentenced, which I was, because I was sentenced way back in like November, and I asked the judge if I could turn myself in January 6th or 7th, and I was a day late. So I was wondering if they were tripping on that without saying it. I didn't want to bring it to their attention, but this was kind of like I was trying to gather intel about what was going on with me. So first question I ask, I go, hey, am I going to stay at MDCLA? And she's like, oh, no. I was like, well, what do you mean? Where am I going to go? And she's like, they're not supposed to tell you. Now, they will if you're with somebody that's got juice, or if you have juice, they'll tell you that because it pops up on their computer screen. And this guy that was shadowing me had enough juice where he could get it out of her. So she starts telling me that I have an open case. I'm like, an open case? What do you mean? And she looks it up, and she tells me that it's for a DUI. And I'm like, it's like, oh man, that's that state case that it was a DA reject when I went to court. They threw it out. And a lot of times that happens, it's just bureaucratic bullshit where they mix up, they mix paperwork up, and it really complicates things. So for some reason, they thought that I still had a DUI, open case out of Los Angeles County. And because of that, it had spiked my points up. I was at an age now, before I was like in my early 20s, I got out in my late 20s. This time I'm past 30, and that drops your points significantly. But what spikes your points back up is if you have an open case. So because of my open case, I couldn't be housed at MDCLA because they only let post-sentence people that have low custody points stay there. I'm like, well, where am I going to go? And this guy that's with me gets it out of her, and she's like, you're going to Lompoc. Now, it's really called Lompoc, but if you know anyone that's done Fed time, they call it Lompoc. It's just mispronounced, but so many people mispronounce it that way that that's what federal inmates call it, Lompoc. It's Lompoc. I grew up in Santa Barbara. Lompoc's in the same county, as Santa Barbara. People from that little methed out town, if they get arrested, they go to Santa Barbara County Jail. So she's like, yeah, you're going to Lompoc. I was like, actually pretty happy about that because I always heard that it was kind of like a cool place. They have a movie theater inside of it. Even though it's an old penitentiary, so it's hot, it's medium points now, but it used to be one of the most violent penitentiaries, federal penitentiaries in the country. It was created right after they shut down Alcatraz. That and I think Marion, Lompoc is one of the older USPs. So I was kind of happy that I was going there, but I was worried about this open case. And she ends up moving me to in with this guy, Mike Miles, this guy from Texas that's in there for a string of bank robberies. And he looks like the shovel guy from Home Alone. And so I move in with him, move out of, the buggy fucking Pisces cell. And at this point I've sold maybe like $1,800 worth of tobacco. I have enough commissary, so all I'm doing now is accumulating debts on paper from Southsiders. Because remember, now I didn't want to do a lot of credit. I found that so everyone wanted to give me commissary, just straight up commissary. There's only so much commissary I can take. I already had like bag after bag after bag. I had enough commissary for 6 months, maybe even longer. I wanted money going to my ex, just so I could try to keep that pathetic, relationship going. So if I was giving people credit, it had to be for street money, and it had to be a Southsider. I wasn't doing it with white people. I wasn't doing it with black people. Just Southsiders, because I'd already blessed their big homie. I was friends with Sporty, who was their shot caller at that time. And I knew that no matter what, I was going to get paid. Because that's one thing about Southsiders. They fucking pay their debts. They're very principled like that. They don't dope fiend it like some other races, including my own. White people rolling it up, it's an epidemic in there. And black people don't really roll it up because they don't really have like the politics like the other races. They just don't really care. I mean, it's kind of like every man for himself type mentality if you're black in prison, from what I've seen. Unless a riot pops off, and then it's, black people versus everyone type shit. But so I move in with this guy Mike, and he doesn't have anything. And he's never been in trouble before. He's scared, doesn't really understand this world. And I come in there, first night, we smoke a cigarette together. I use 2 batteries to light it. I'm going to do a video on that as well. You can make fire with 2 batteries and like a little thin piece of aluminum, like foil, like that you can get from like a Hershey's chocolate bar. And then you make like a flower out of toilet paper. Put the flower in your mouth. You put the metal, one negative, one positive. You put the little strip and burst into flame. You light your cigarette. So we smoke a cigarette that first night. He's like so stoked to be smoking a cigarette, and he said that people weren't that nice to him because, he's older. He had the, the sketchy Home Alone shoveler look, and he didn't understand prison, and he was very depressed, and he just read fantasy books all day, and detective books. He did read those too. And, I was like, okay, cool. Well, this isn't my first rodeo. Let me school you. That's what white people should be doing for you anyway, but it looks like we're in some like fucking, child molester convention or something. These guys are ridiculous. And he was very appreciative of that. Plus, I had so much commissary, it's like, look, you're not going to be starving anymore. Because he said before I got there, he was always starving. Nobody was looking out for him. He had no way of contacting anyone, Some people that are older like that, like, don't have, they don't, like, know people's email addresses by heart. And you have to have money on your books to make a phone call. And he didn't even know that he could ask other people to like do this kind of stuff for him. Like, hey, can you have this person hit this person up on Facebook or whatever so that I can get in contact with someone. So it wasn't because he didn't have people that would look out for him. He didn't even know possible ways to do so. So I started schooling him right away, like telling him exactly what he needed to do to, sustain some semblance of a decent lifestyle in there. You have to have people sending you money or you're going to be screwed. You're going to be hungry all the time. It's just a fact. The stuff they feed you shitty. So, I'm still dope sick. He's got, we end up getting a radio, just an individual radio that you can listen to with headphones. That helps a lot when you're dope sick. And I finally end up, one of the people that I'd sold tobacco to, I end up having them put money on my own books. It wasn't a lot. I think it was like $50 or $60, but it was enough to make a phone call. I think in the feds, a phone call's $3.45, which is ridiculous. And I end up calling my ex-wife. Now she's calmed down. She's so bipolar like that. And, she's like, hey, listen, I'm sorry. You just caught me and I was having a really stressed out day. It's very difficult without you. Now, in her defense, it was difficult without me. She didn't have a vehicle anymore. Remember, it got repoed a long time ago. She was working, her work got switched to like West LA. So she had to wake up at like fucking 4 a.m, get dressed, get ready, take her kid to daycare or school or whatever he was in at the time. And then she had to take public transportation all the way from the valley to the west side and be a single mom. So I did sympathize with her. I shouldn't have, because wait till you hear what she does. But, I did have compassion for the situation. I was like, okay, well, I understand. Hey, they're going to move me to Lompoc. and her birthday was coming up. Her birthday's in sometime mid-January. I'm like, hey, they're gonna visit me to Lompoc. I got really good news though. I got this case manager, and like, one of my buddies here has juice with her. I can get like your visitation forms expedited. Like, all you got to do is fill them out, send them to the case manager, and you'll be approved that day, and you can come visit me for your birthday. And she's like, well, my best friend is flying out here for that weekend, and we're gonna go out and we're gonna party. I'm like, well, and I'm a jealous piece of shit. Like, there's no way that I'd be okay with that anyway. So instantly, I'm just enraged by this. I'm like, what do you mean you're gonna go out and party? I was like, your husband is in fucking prison right now. You have only one opportunity. They're gonna transfer me to Lompoc, and you're not even gonna attempt to come see me the one chance that you can. It was like the one, because they, depending on, I forget what it was, your number, there were only certain days that she could see me. And it was like that Sunday was her birthday coming up. It was like, I think it was like I don't know, Tuesday, whatever. She had enough time to send the form in, get approved for that specific Sunday. And I was like, regardless if you want to go party that night, you can at least come visit me in the day. You can take the subway down here. It takes 10 minutes from the valley. You can't do that for me? And she's like, I think you're being really selfish right now. I think it's so fucking typical. You're being so selfish. All you think about is yourself. That's it, Ryan. You're a fucking selfish, narcissistic junkie. I'm just like, oh my God. Do you know what risks I've taken for you just to try to keep you happy, just to try to contribute? Do you realize that? She's like, you're just being so selfish. It's typical Ryan shit. The world doesn't revolve around you. You are such a fucking drug addict. You are so fucking selfish. And I'm just like, dude, you're already in jail. You're already dope sick. It's like hearing that voice just can drive anyone to madness. And I'm like, so I start getting really upset. I'm already jealous because she's going to go out and party at the nightclub. I'm already upset that she won't visit me. It's like, dude, after all that, like, really, after everything that I'm trying to do just to keep our shit going, you can't at least do that for me. And I'm sure I was like, you're a fucking bitch. You know that? You're a fucking piece of shit cunt. She's like, really? Really? You're gonna talk to me like that? How many more days do you have, Ryan? How many more days? What? 83? You know how many fucking dicks I can suck in 83 fucking days? Dial tone. I think a tear went down my eye. Like, just out of like one eyeball. Like that old school commercial where like, somebody litters and like the Native American guy's like on the side of the freeway and like just a tear comes down and they make fun of it in like Wayne's World 2, I think. That was me. One tear coming out. I'm just like, oh my God, I'm such a bitch. Like, how could I take that from her? How could I take that from her after all she'd done to me, after I ate my own shit to try to help her out? She can't even come visit me. I was hurt. I cried. I for sure cried over it. I remember like going back to my cell and like Mike was like, he's so monotoned and so depressed. He's like, "Are you okay?" It's like the dude from Winnie the Pooh, Eeyore. "Are you all right?" And I'm like, "No, man, not really." And I'm like, all sniffly and like just I'm crying to him about my toxic relationship and how I'm pussy whipped and all the bad things that are going on. Right as this going on, Ray Loco comes in to the cell. Doesn't knock, just storms in. You can tell he's pissed off. He's like, "Hey, fool, the fuck is this, fool? Fucking SIS just came and served me that, fool. The fuck, dog? I fucking told you not to say stupid shit over the phone, fool. Fucking retard, dog." And I'm like, huh? I'm dope sick. I'm like, okay, well, he hasn't said bitch, he hasn't said punk, hasn't said lame. And this is still talkable at this point. And he hands me a piece of paper. It's an incident report from when he let me use the phone. And they have verbatim what was said. She's like, you told me that, I'd be all right because of what you smuggled in there or whatever you took in there. However they said it verbatim, but it basically they had recorded the phone conversation and they had it down on paper that I was it was a misuse of the phone, that he had let me use his phone, and they had charged him with like another thing, like trying to circumvent the rules of the institution and trying to breach the safety. It was like, multiple things that they were doing. And he had to go see disciplinary hearing officer. Like, he was probably going to go to the hole. He was probably going to lose good conduct credit. He was definitely going to lose phone privileges for probably a year. And he was telling me all this. And he's like, I fucking told you. I fucking told you. You told me you were some fucking solid peckerwood, fool. You're a fucking lame. I'm just sitting there. He's talking to me. And, I've said it a million times. I'm not a tough guy. At all. I certainly wasn't before I went to prison the first time. But I'm also not a bitch. And I'm not going to be talked to that way. So I stand up. And, like, he's short and stocky like me. He's got the Mr. Clean look going on, shiny head. And he's mad. He's got this, like, he got handlebar mustache. It's Ray Loco. I mean, just imagine what somebody with that handle looks like. It's exactly how he looked. And I stand up. I just square up with him, and I'm like, hey, the fuck did you just call me? He's like, I called you a fucking lame. Because that's what you are, fool. And we're just kind of staring at each other. And we will get into what happens with the Ray Loco situation on the next video. I'm taking a little bit of time off just to spend time with my family. I appreciate you guys. If you can like, comment, subscribe, dislike, whatever you have to do, just engage with this video, and check out Patreon, patreon.com/Ryan Leone. I appreciate all of you. Have a wonderful weekend. Palabra.